feel sometimes when we take time off. And yesterday was a holiday, and great for us who actually got to take some time off. But there are others of us who have things going on during the week, and we have to use that weekend time or the holiday time in order to get everything for our business done. Now, I'm usually for the campus, I take time off, like you really need to stay away from a business, but I understand, especially after having worked shift work for the majority of my life. I've worked in the shift working capacity for 19 years. And I understand my husband still works a shift working schedule. I totally understand, having to work when you have a chance, especially if you have younger kids. Sometimes the weekends are perfectly fine, but sometimes when we have a lot going on, especially if we have client work, things that it's sometimes hard to really disconnect and say and have these boundaries and say, hey, I am going to be off. And sometimes we have to negotiate those times off, or especially when we've had our boundaries breached in the past. Hey, I'm available 24/7 because you're my client. I want to please you. And this goes for service providers, people who do done for you work. I do. And it also goes for coaching. You have a one-on-one client and you're doing life coaching, let's say. Sometimes people have emergencies during off hours, and it's hard, especially if you're a heart-centered, service provider, coach, right? It's hard for us to turn that off when a client needs us. And what I really wanted to talk about today was, one, when we are feeling that guilt or that, that should I check in, should I not check in, and that feeling of really wanting to I'm the type of person that I check things before I go to bed. Now, I do that for myself because I knowing what is coming ahead. I plan my days the night before. That one, I know what time I need to wake up. Do I need to wake up early, or can I sleep in? I want to know what's coming up the next day. I do check email at night before I go to bed. Some people, they don't prefer that. They're early birds and they get up and they'd rather not check into their email inbox and then just leave it, because I know I'll get attached to something that's happening in an email. But what I've developed are systems that help me to really do an email triage or even a notification triage in Slack and Asana. I have a system that I can read messages, but also know what I need to take care of because of what's left in my inbox. And that's how I manage keeping boundaries. But when we are, looking at, can I really afford to check out? Can I really afford to not be on call 24/7? I'll be honest, I went through a thing with one of my clients where it's, especially one of my VIP clients, it's very hard for me to say no, especially because, hey, they're paying for premium service. I want to provide premium support. That's just who I am. I love supporting my people, and I want to make sure that everything's taken care of, but at what cost? And I really had to take an assessment. I've been off a couple of times. Each time it's gotten easier to take time off. I kind of look at it, right? We've all had babies. It's putting your kid to sleep in another room. At first, you're, well, they need to sleep with me. But, we start to build a codependent relationship with our children. But when we do develop a slightly codependent relationship with our clients, that's really when we feel that guilt. And what I want to talk about today is an article about guilt versus resentment. And the question that the writer that she was reading posed was, do I want to feel guilty for leaving something unread, untouched, or what have you, if we're talking about clients? And do I want to feel guilty about it? Or do I want to step in and do the thing and then feel resentful about it? How can we find the balance of feeling guilty or resentful? And this goes both ways, right? This can go for clients, or it can even go with, hey, I am busy, I'm working, I'm focused, and then our kids, our family want our attention, and then we feel resentful for helping them. I know for me, when I get into a workflow, yay, workflow, everything's going good and I'm jamming. Especially you guys know I'm writing a book now and I'm in the editing process and it's and when I'm in the flow, it's good, and then when I get interrupted or what have you, and I gotta come back. Sometimes it's not, the flow has stopped, and really, this is just the question I wanted to pose to you guys today: is how can you bridge the gap between feeling guilty or not pushing it over into resentment? Because once we push it over into resentment, it's I know for me, when I have allowed clients to push my boundaries, I've just felt resentment, and I think I would, once I heard the two, guilt versus resentment, I think I would rather deal with the guilt because it's something that I can internalize. I can internalize sadness better, quicker than I can anger. Resentment is like a mild form of anger. It's in that same family. I would say the guilt is more on the sad side of things, if we're looking at emotions in broad categories. What I want for you guys today is to just really assess, just take that question, and when you're looking at your to-do list and you're feeling this stress and this anxiety come up, should I go in, or should I choose me? Should I choose them? And a lot of times when we choose the other person, whether it's in a client relationship or even in a personal relationship with a spouse, child, parent, when we do choose somebody else, not feeling selfless, if we're not making a conscious choice to choose that person, that's when that resentment can start to just come on and just build up. And how do we really take this into our businesses, especially going into launch season? Because who of you have, launched a product or helped a client launch a product? Launches are just gnarly sometimes, or they can be, and there are times where it doesn't have to be. It all depends on your level of, we'll just say, it all depends on your level of perfectionism. How perfect does this need to be? Are you on the scale of, can I just, like, we're meeting the deadline, it's fine? Or are you on the other side of the spectrum where you agonize and you test, and there are two sides to this coin. You can be really loose, or you can be very harsh and rigid, and that's when we can get into this kind of predicament of feeling the guilt and resentment piece. Even when it comes to ourselves, say you're a solopreneur, you're working by yourself, we can feel guilty for not doing the things on time when we say we are. Missed commitments. How do we really internalize those missed commitments? And what I wanted to share with you today is really, when you have a plan, you know me, right? I'm going to talk about systems and strategies. When you have a plan in place, the guilt and the resentment can go away. When I set up a project plan for my clients, I take into consideration, what do you have on your plate? What is really going on now? And this is part of that peace process that I've been talking about. It's an acronym, of course. Peace. P, plan. You want to make sure you plan and have a plan laid out. You don't want to not have a target. Habakkuk 2:2 says we need to write the vision, make it plain on tablets. And this is that starting that plan. Just knowing your destination, your goal, wherever, that is super important. And then E stands for evaluate. You have to evaluate if what you're doing is worth it. If we're talking about a small task, is it worth it for me now to stop doing what I'm doing and take care of something else? Is it really worth it? You have to evaluate when we're talking about a project plan, especially a launch plan. You have to evaluate, is this plan even worth executing? Because that will deal with your guilt and your resentment. Because what if you have the plan and you take off and you're like super excited? That excitement wears off. We all know this. The honeymoon phase wears off. You have a new product, you're cool, super, and you try to launch it. And then, when you don't calculate the ROI, you don't calculate the time that it takes, the money it's going to take. Do you have to hire out? Do you have to buy software? If the launch doesn't go as planned, are you going to feel resentful because you invested all of this up front? Align, right? Evaluate. We've talked about the time wheel before. Time, ideas, money, and energy. The plan is getting all of your ideas out on paper. Evaluate. Does this line up with my time and my money? Does it? Is it worth my time and my money to take on this launch, to take on this project? Is it going to generate the income that I need it to produce? And in and out, are you going to get the ROI that you need when you launch this thing? Align for A, right? PEA, align. Does this align with your values? Does it align with your current business goals? Does this launch align with your current product line, offers, current offers? Does it align? Does it line up? You really have to assess, does it line up? And then C, you have to commit. Once you've done all of the research, you have to commit. And we'll talk about this at another time. But really, when you don't commit to your goals, this is what causes that procrastination, that feeling stuck. And especially if, right, we're coming up against Black Friday. I've talked about this already. Black Friday offers, we should be planning them now, right? We should really be launching those puppies now, or even at least thinking about what we're going to offer and going through the peace process. Plan, evaluate, align. Align means going through your product suite and making sure this Black Friday offer aligns. If you're going with an old one, then that's cool. But I'm talking about launching a new thing. And then C, you have to commit. And you have to be with committing. We've already talked about the plan. What tools and software are you going to use? You have to commit. Procrastination is about fear. It triggers that fight or flight response, and procrastination is on the flight side of that trauma response, that trigger response. That's what happens when we're procrastinating. And you really have to think about, okay, am I going to commit to this product, this process, whatever you're building? Because if you don't commit, you're not going to achieve any of the goals that you've set out. You've already taken time, you've planned, you've evaluated, you made sure that this lines up, it aligns with what you're doing, your current business goals and your product offers, your product suite. Now you have to commit. There are some of us who don't need that much reassurance in order to step forward. Some of us are more risk taker. Some of us are a little bit more risk averse. If you are risk averse, especially if you've been burned in the past, and we just say burned in the past when we're talking about relationships, but it's really your relationship with your business. Have you been burned by your business? And I'm not talking about burnout, while that is a factor, but have you just been burned when you've launched before? And you have to sift through all of these fears that do come up. Is a fear of being seen, fear of selling too much, looking salesy. All these fears that come up is what causes that procrastination, and just you end up in that freeze mode. C, commit to the plan that you've already created. When I say commit, buy the software. You can sit in analysis paralysis all day, but you really need to commit at this point to the software that you're going to use, to the product that you're going to be offering, that you're going to be choosing, and commit to your team. Do you need to hire someone? Do you need to hire someone, another VA who specializes in that software that you just purchased or thinking about purchasing? You can outsource those things. You don't have to, I mean, you should, right? You're going to assess, look at the lifetime value of the software that you're using, or you're going to do a 1 month deal and then see if you like it and if you want to continue. But again, you're going to be investing your time and your energy and your effort into building this course, this product, landing page, like all the back end stuff into these pieces of software. Are you committed to that? If you're in commitment issues, I get it. I'm an AppSumo addict. I admit that. I love going to AppSumo and getting all the deals, because who doesn't getting a deal? I love lifetime deals. Sometimes it doesn't always pan out, but hey, it's better than, I think it's better being an early adopter and testing it out, paying what you would pay monthly for one time or even for 1 year. So that's just where I look at, my time versus money things. If it does what I needed to do, I'm with investing up front and being an early adopter. Commit to your tools and your team. C, PEACE. Last E is just execute. You gotta execute your plan. It doesn't do anything if you've gone through all of this and then you get to this point and you're, I know we can be procrastinators. I can be a procrastinator sometimes. I love planning. I love creating checklists. I love checking off the boxes. And then there's those last couple of boxes that means putting yourself out there. You've committed. You said yes to this project. You said yes to the tools. You said yes to the team. And then now it's time to really execute. And there's really not much more to say about the E for execute. It's just Nike. Just do it. If you are thinking about launching a Black Friday offer, I would love for you to join me. We'll walk through the process. And if you're not able to join live, sign up and get the replay. And I would love to have you on that planning workshop. It's going to be good. The last thing I want to leave with you is that question. When you're thinking about doing something and you feel these emotions rising up, 1, do I rather feel guilty for saying no, or do I want to feel resentful for saying yes?